Good evening and welcome to the Rambler Sports Locker.
Loyola's women's volleyball team is on a 7-match winning streak, including taking home its second straight tournament title at the Valparaiso Popcorn Classic.
Men's soccer had a successful weekend as well, traveling north to the NIU Adidas Invitational, where they shared the tournament title with hosts Northern Illinois.
All your Rambler highlights and more coming up on the Rambler Sports Locker.
Good evening and thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the Rambler Sports Locker. I'm Natalie Pieper.
And I'm Mike Nitsch. We'll kick things off tonight with men's soccer's impressive unbeaten streak. After back-to-back losses to start their season, the Loyola men's soccer team is unbeaten in its last 4 contests, conceding only 1 goal in those 4 games. The Ramblers won both of their matches 1-0 this weekend at Northern Illinois. The team had 4 players named to the all-tournament team, including redshirt seniors Ben Krognell and Eric Schoendorf. Krognell was chosen as the Offensive Player of the Week in the Missouri Valley Conference after his golden goal in the 101st minute against Stetson won the game for Loyola. Schoendorf, an accounting and finance double major with a 3.7 GPA, was selected as the Scholar Athlete of the Week by the Missouri Valley Conference, in addition to his tournament honors.
3 can be the loneliest number, but Madeline Kenney will give you the update on how the number 3 is celebrated in Chicago sports. Take By the Numbers.
This week's By the Numbers is brought to you by the number 3. Good things happen in threes like NBA titles. Just as Chicago, the Bulls had 2 three-peats in the 90s with 6 championship titles led by Hall of Famers Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and head coach Phil Jackson. The White Sox also believe 3 times the charm. Chicago's Southside team has acquired 3 World Series titles in the program's history, along with 3 Central Division titles since 2000. The Chicago Blackhawks have won the Stanley Cup 3 times in the past 6 years, Chicago's most recent being this past summer. The Blackhawks defeated the Tampa Bay Lightning in Game 6 of the finals to bring Lord Stanley back home. And lastly, Loyola has 3 national championship titles under its belt. The Ramblers' first title came in 1963 when the men's basketball team defeated Cincinnati in a thrilling 60-58 overtime victory. The next national championship title came 4 decades later in 2014 when Loyola's men's volleyball team defeated Stanford on its home court in the Gentile Arena. The Ramblers went on to repeat in 2015, beating the crosstown rival Lewis University in a nail-biting 5-set win. And that's it for this week's By the Numbers. I'm Madeline Kenney.
Hey, maybe Loyola's men's volleyball team will get the 3-peat next May.
I think all of Loyola is confident that they will, because Loyola is always the best, you know? Bump, set, spike. You know the women's volleyball team is coming in hot with their best season record since 2008. The team took the Valparaiso Popcorn Classic title with a perfect record of 4-0 this past weekend. Junior outside hitter Morgan Reardon was awarded MVP, beating out a stacked tournament team. She also received Missouri Valley Conference Defensive Player of the Week. This is Reardon's first MVC recognition since she joined the Ramblers her freshman year, and believes she has improved tremendously throughout her career. She originally joined the team as an offensive player and now does her best to play defense.
I never really was a defensive player, and even my friends used to make fun of me that I was just this big outside that couldn't go in the back row. So I feel like I showed them, and I just thought it was really cool to be acknowledged for something that I'm not usually acknowledged for.
As the season goes forward, the Ramblers are focusing on working hard every day and using their wins to motivate them. With a winning streak and a tournament title already under their belt, the women's volleyball team looks to bump their way to a successful season. Women's volleyball travels to New York for the Cornell Invitational this weekend. Good luck, ladies.
Loyola's men's volleyball has already made its mark at home and now is headed abroad. Sophomores Ricky Gevis and Jeff Hendrick are currently competing on the U.S. men's junior national team in the World Championships held in Tijuana, Mexico. But there are plenty of volleyball players to go around, given the 8 new members that joined this year's team in pursuit of Loyola's 3rd straight national championship title.
This past Friday, the cross-country teams traveled down to Normal, Illinois for the state invite race. In what is normally a very tough competition, the Rambler women took first place overall, eclipsing the host and second place finisher Illinois State by 18 points. The men's team also ran well and claimed third place overall. In what is becoming the norm, the top runners for the second week in a row were Mitch Baum for the men and Sydney Stunkel for the women, who finished third and fifth respectively. This Friday, the Rambler runners will head to South Bend, Indiana, to compete in the National Catholic Championships. With the men's volleyball team winning back-to-back national championships, Loyola Volleyball has gotten a lot of press. Jake Mazanke has more on how one team is flying under the radar.
The new school year means a new start for the women's club volleyball team. Expectations are sky high as they return 15 members from the team that placed 5th at Nationals last season. They added 9 new members to fill their roster as they attempt to continue the momentum they gained at the end of the year. Junior Allison Merkel is the vice president of the women's club volleyball team. She has already seen promise in what the new members can bring to the team.
We got some really good freshmen coming in, some big hitters, some good defenders, which we're really excited about.
The team will travel to compete in 4 different tournaments this fall. Last year they had a rough start to the season because of a lack of tournaments, but turned it around during the spring season just in time for nationals. A more favorable schedule this fall should help carry them throughout the entire year.
The tournaments are really competitive. We hope to do some great things, especially with our good finish at nationals last year.
Despite recent success, the team is not all about wins and losses. They pride themselves on competing at a high level while still enjoying the game. Music is constantly blaring during practice, and players can be seen consistently encouraging each other on the court.
We're so tight as a team and as a little family, and it's really great to have all these friends.
They are hoping that this tight-knit team atmosphere can help propel them to another national tournament run this spring. From Rambler Sports Locker, I'm Jake Mazanke.
The women's club volleyball team will continue to practice until October 10th, when they will participate in their first tournament of the fall semester.
Loyola women's basketball announced its Missouri schedule for this season. Their first game is set to play on January 3rd against Bradley in Peoria, Illinois. The women's team's first home conference game is scheduled against 3-time defending conference champion Wichita State on January 15th. The Ramblers have a total of 7 newcomers, including 5 freshmen.
And now we're going to bump it over to the Ramble to talk more about the women's volleyball season.
Thanks, guys. Really dig that intro. As we've heard before, the women's volleyball team has been doing really great this season so far, but they haven't started Missouri Valley Conference play yet, which they will begin next Thursday. So we're here to talk about what our expectations are for the women's volleyball team in the NVC this year. So we're going to start with Trisha.
Okay, I think they're going to have a really great season. They are 8-2 already, and it's the best start we had since the 2008 season. Last year we went 5-13, and we're a much better start. We got 7 new freshmen. The 2 really key players, Morgan Gresham and Amanda Cushion, who was just named Freshman of the Week last week for her big help in the Hampton Invitational. We just swept the Popcorn Classic last week, and junior Morgan Reardon was named the MVP. So I think we got a lot of potential on our team for this season, and I'm excited for it.
Dylan, how do you respond to that?
You know, I'm going to take a pretty unpopular position here. Sure, it's great. We're 8-2. It's our best start in years, like a really, really long time. We're at the top of the Missouri Valley Conference in nearly every offensive and defensive statistic. But here's the thing. Who have they played? In the last 10 games they've played, half of their teams are sub-500 ball clubs. Savannah State, who they beat in 3 sets, like they've beaten most teams in 3 sets, they haven't won a single game this whole year. In fact, they haven't won a single set all year. They have yet to win a single set. So really, I mean, how much value are you going to put in a win with that? IPFW is 3-13. Most of the teams that are above 500 are above 500 by like a game or 2, not much. So I'm not going to totally write it off. They've had some good wins. Valparaiso's 10-1. They're leading the Horizon League standings. But to say that, you know, they're going to come be the top team in the conference, top team in one of the top teams in the nation, I think it's just a little too early to say.
Okay, so you've got new players, some hope, a lot of momentum on the side of being optimistic about this season, while Dylan has some stats about opponents so far. Trisha, how do you counter Dylan's argument?
I'm not saying they're going to be the top team. I just think we're going to have a really good season. The Missouri Valley Conference, we're ranked at the top right now. I'm not going to say it's not the most challenging conference, but I mean, I feel a lot of teams in there aren't doing really well right now. Our first game against Bradley, they're only 5-4. So I think at the beginning of the season, at least, we're going to have a good start. Maybe towards the end, we might fall apart a little when we play some of the more challenging teams, but I think we're going to have a really great season.
Dylan?
I mean, obviously it's fun to win and it's exciting to win, and I'm not trying to like say that we're going to be terrible this year, but you got to remember that the out of conference schedule is always supposed to be a little better than your in conference schedule because you play your conference teams multiple times, and so realistically they're adjusting to you and they're changing, so the games get tighter and the games mean more. Wichita State right now is 7-3. They received votes to get into the top 25 rankings in the country. They didn't get enough, but they got votes to get in. Loyola didn't receive a single one. And I think that means something. It's important when we're looking at teams, and especially at our own teams, and we're analyzing them, we have to try and use an outsider perspective as much as possible. Like I said, should we be excited about winning? Absolutely. Winning is super fun. But given Loyola's history, the women's volleyball team's history with mediocrity, really, I think we pretty much have to put the burden of proof on them before we really start, getting really excited.
Okay, while we can't deny that momentum is extremely important in the sport of volleyball, numbers tend to not lie. So I'm going to have to go with Dylan on this one. Through past experience with Loyola's team in the Missouri Valley Conference for the past 2 years, has not been promising once conference play has started. So I'm going to go with Dylan on having a very cautious optimism for the upcoming season. So thank you for watching this week's Ramble. Back to you guys at the desk.
The team will start MVC play next Thursday, September 24th, against Bradley in the Gentile Arena.
There are some big games in Loyola's schedule this week. This weekend, the men's soccer team is scheduled to host Butler University on Saturday night. And DePaul, Loyola's rivals from down the street, will come to visit the women's team at Loyola Park on Sunday.
And just like that, we've run out of time. Tune in to next week's episode of the Rambler Sports Locker for all your Loyola sports news. I'm Natalie Pieper.
And I'm Mike Nitsch. Thanks for stopping by the locker.
And don't forget to turn out the lights.